Welcome, everybody, to this week's Take Charge of Your Life discussions, uh, where we talk about how to live healthy, live empowered, and live free. I'm one of your hosts, Tish Taylor from Growth Centric Living. I'm a mindset trainer and a personal transformation guide, and this is my co-host, Roberta.
Hey everyone, I am a holistic health practitioner and also a personal transformation specialist collaborating with Tish to bring you, this tremendous path for, this mind, body, and soul transformation.
We are both, as you can see, elite mentorship trainers. What that means is that we've been certified under a gentleman named Peter Sage. He has been a mentor that has been fundamental in my own growth and transformation. And so what we're going to do here is to show a little clip of his and then elaborate on it, that teaching in our format of mind, body, and soul. If you aren't familiar with Peter Sage, he is a world-renowned human behavior expert. He has spoken in over 63 countries worldwide and has dedicated his life really and his work to empowering individuals to achieve their highest potential. So a mandate that both Roberta and I feel very strongly about in helping him raise the consciousness of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tish. I'm going to share this 60-second reel of Peter's, and it's entitled G.O.O.P.
One of the biggest drainers of happiness in most people's lives is something called G.O.O.P. G.O.O.P, the good opinion of other people. If you're a kind of person who is always trying to fit other people's approval strategies, always trying to adapt to get other people to like you, if they don't like me this way, I'll be that way. If they don't like me that way, I'll be this way. Or you get riled up just because somebody says something nasty on anti-social media, then your quality of life is going to suffer. And I'm reminded by one of the most beautiful quotes from Winston Churchill. He said that in our 20s, we care about what everybody else thinks of us. In our 40s, we stop caring what everybody else thinks. And in our 60s, we realize that no one was actually thinking about us in the first place. Now, if you're stuck in G.O.O.P, remember that, because it's really a sign of the levels of maturity that go through understanding that we are the star of our movie, and we really shouldn't be bowing to the opinions of film extras.
All right, so in case you didn't catch that, G.O.O.P stands for the good opinion of other people. And one of the things that's very common in our community is we talk about swimming in G.O.O.P. So when you're stuck trying to worry about what everybody else is thinking about you instead of really thinking about yourself, then you might be swimming in G.O.O.P, which is like sticky and, you can tell by the name of it, not really pleasant. So the other analogy that before we go into our components here is the movie analogy. And this is also really strong. I found this actually profound even for myself in really thinking about how we are the stars of our own movie. We are the main actor. We're the main person that our own lives are each about. And everybody else is an extra in our own film, but the star of their own. So that kind of puts things in perspective when we are running around trying to think about what everybody else is thinking. So if we put that into our kind of format here, and we'll start with the mind. Okay, again, a big mindset shift for me personally was the reminder that Peter gave me that, I'm the star of my movie. No one else is living my life.
Yeah, yeah, for myself too, totally. The quality of life, like you said, is directly related to how much we let G.O.O.P influence us. And we were kind of talking about that earlier, and that it's really based on peer pressure from younger days, and how we're so conditioned in this culture to look at the outer world and see people and judge them and compare ourselves to other people. And it's really quite mentally, detrimental. Bullying really would be kind of an example of that, where people are so concerned about what other people think that, sometimes they'd even take their own lives, so it's a big driving force, I think, in our lives in so many ways. I was thinking about this as we were getting ready for this call, and I thought, G.O.O.P is probably the biggest negative influence on my life that has slowed me down the most and has stopped me from pursuing my best and really leaning into what I felt was my purpose and what I want to do and how I want to help people. it's just such a unhealthy program that just can be so detrimental.
Yeah, because it stops us, right? When we're worried about what other people think, and we kind of assume that they are thinking about us when in reality they're not. They're worried about their own movie or trying to figure out what we're thinking of them at the same time and what our judgments might be. So really pulling ourselves out of that way of thinking and shifting our mindset to remind ourselves that, hey, we're the star of this movie. My life is about me. So it makes sense that I matter. And that's not an egotistical thing. It's not saying we're not caring about other people, but you know what? Their opinions of us should not shift what we do. And being a child and a recovered people pleaser, this definitely has been prominent in my life. In, you know, me looking to see what other people were going to do first, or even asking, you know, the people that I valued what their opinions were without being able to have an opinion of my own, without really thinking about what I want for my life and what matters to me, instead of, you know, basing my actions on what I thought would make others happy instead.
Yeah, I think, you know, what I hear you saying too is being so disempowered that we just continue to people please everyone around us. And really that doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve them. For us to give such a disempowered version of ourselves to them, we're not living up to our full potential, and we're not giving them our best if we're more concerned about what they think and really not showing up in our fullness.
Well, and I have to laugh. The more I grew, the more I realized not only are they not thinking about me, but like half the time I assumed what they were thinking. Like they didn't even actually think it. I just wrote the story in my mind about what they would be thinking if they saw me do this, or what they must be thinking. And uh, so a big part of my growth has started to, you know, own my own truth and also try not to assume what others are thinking. So in magnifying that goop and the muddy waters for myself, in guessing. Brene Brown has a really good talk about, you know, being vulnerable that speaks to this. I'm reminded of, and I have actually started using some of these methods where, you know, when I start to develop those stories in my head about what I think other people are thinking about a certain action, or are they upset or not, then I've started just going and asking and saying, you know, hey, can you like help me for like, can we talk about this situation for a second? You know, the story I'm telling myself is this. And I actually have an example of me doing this recently. I have a long-term friend of mine that we've gone on family vacations together since our boys were little, because our boys are the same age. And they more recently in their family, she has a partner. Like when we started, we were both single, and she has another partner now, and they have some other family friends and stuff. And so this person has, these other families have sort of joined us on our vacationing. And I kind of got my nose at a joint, feeling like I was the last one to know about the certain dates and things like that we were picking. And I wrote it point blank to her to say, hey, I'm just wondering, like, is there, the story I'm telling myself is that you don't want to do this tradition with me anymore, or, you know, that, you know, you like other people better, silly stuff that when you type it out, I'm a little bit embarrassed to even admit it. But can you just like tell me, is there any truth to this? You know, basically was asking, is our friendship still good? And she wrote back, nope, like just point blank, nope, none of that. I didn't think any of those things that you said, which just made me feel so much better. And then we cleared it up and were able to have a conversation about it, and just making things that much easier in me, you know, like think about what could have happened in me, assuming she doesn't want this. So then I don't go on the trip, and then I don't do this. And we like miss out on so much, all because a story that I made up in my head about what somebody else might think. It is crazy what we do to ourselves.
Yeah, that is a really good example. And I think of when Peter said it's one of the biggest drainers of our happiness, and think about how much energy it takes to wonder what other people are thinking and then try to accommodate that imagination, you know, whether it's looking a certain way. I used to really stress about that for years, you know, wanting to look good on the outside, very perfectionistic. And it was just absolutely exhausting to the point of burnout. You know, pleasing other people is like a hamster wheel to nowhere, as Peter would say. It just doesn't serve us in any way. And like you said, it's not about pride or anything like that. It's about giving our best to the world. We all have a light to shine. We have very specific things we're called to. And if we just spend all our time running around trying to please other people, we never get to that fulfillment really of living up to our potential in those areas.
Yeah, exactly. Really kind of giving our power away. So maturity in mindset in this area is really realizing that people aren't thinking about you as much as you are. Don't make up stories about yourself, and learn to be confident in, what following our heart, what is our own truth, and be able to follow that and hold still to that, regardless of what anybody else may say out loud or otherwise. So that leads us into our tip for mindset and living empowered is don't believe anything that hasn't been said out loud to you directly. Stop assuming what other people are thinking or that you even know. And if you really need to know, go ahead and ask. Be prepared for the answer, but also be prepared that, you may be way off course.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Tish. The second area that we cover here is the live healthy, which is the body part. And what came up for me in this was thinking about when I work with people that are trying to make, decisions for their health, and they're very clear on what they want, that they don't want to go into the pharmaceutical realm and they want the holistic, solutions, but they're very afraid of what their doctor will think. So they're really stressed and struggle. It's like, well, if I tell my doctor I got off this med, I don't know what they're going to say or something like that. And it's just, and I always just look at them and say, you're paying them to work for you. And your opinion is the final decision, but it's just interesting how we get programmed into those people pleasing or fear of what other people will think of us. When it comes right down to it, our health is like such a, tremendous asset to protect and to guard and to make executive decisions on. And so that's a really big area that, I would encourage people to really, decide, like, if intuitively that something is not okay for you, then that is your truth, that's your decision. And not to, I just personally would never sacrifice my health for some other doctor's opinion or someone's opinion that doesn't have to live in my body. So that's a big, focus for me in the work that I do, and just really trying to empower people to, make executive decisions all the time and say no. If it's not good for you, it's not good for you. That's okay.
I feel like this physical realm and in our bodies and what we eat, what time we sleep, even like parenting our children and different rules that we set kind of around those, and the health area, that this is really where peer pressure comes in. And a lot of us sort of get stuck in the goop. We don't want to be that one parent who says, what, my kid doesn't eat ice cream or chocolate or those kinds of things. However, as having kids now that are almost grown up, I can say that there, was distinct. Like, I regretted it when I did that once in a while, every time when I was afraid to, own up to my own truth, because I thought other parents would look down on me or, think I was too strict or something like that. And then, now I have this chocolate sugar-filled kid who is just like losing it at home. Or, we stayed up too late when I knew better. I knew that they would need some sleep. And then the next entire day could be a write-off sometimes for us. And it was those examples that really led me back to, listening to my own intuition and, not giving that away based on this one moment at this one party that somebody might, be like, well, I'm going to let my kid, you're too strict, or etc. Those kinds of things. So this has been a huge area that I have had to work on for myself.
Yeah, when I was raising my 4 children too, I didn't know as much as I know now about all this and the health and how, specific it is to our wellness and how we show up, and even our long-term health, right? We're designed to live in our bodies for 100 years. So what we're teaching our children about health and aligning with the body is something they're going to carry with them their entire life. And if we teach them health strategies, they're going to have a healthy body to live in. And if we don't, they're going to have a very unhealthy, tired or sickly body to live in. And that really isn't something that any of us want to think about in the future, that this is what we've passed on to our children. So really is a critical piece, knowing that when we give kids things that make them feel totally stressed, totally upset, totally, like ADHD, that's not really a loving act either, to give them something that is actually harming them to the point of they end up getting, consequences or get in trouble or upset their siblings, things like that. I mean, ADHD is not a disease. It's a mineral deficiency and some other areas of the body that need to be regulated and calmed down. But giving them inflammatory foods just keeps that pathology going and drives them. And many kids suffer greatly with that, and then end up on medications which have side effects, which causes them discomfort and pain and suffering also. So it's kind of a, it just kind of keeps expanding. And the more we ignore these things and not take ownership of them and really take responsibility over them, we're just setting our kids up and other people in our lives just for, a constant struggle in the physical realm for sure, and the mental realm. So it's a big deal.
But G.O.O.P is really what the teenagers are all about, right?
Mhm.
And trying to decide what you want and what you do, and what a service we can do for our families by providing them with these kinds of teachings and mindsets to be able to be, stronger, not expecting perfection out of our teens, but certainly empowering them to trust in their own selves and not look for some of those opinions otherwise, and try to stay in the good graces of everybody else.
Yeah, I think the final, focus was thinking of, even as adults, people that aren't willing to turn down foods that are really causing them a whole lot of, like a diabetic who won't turn down an apple pie because the neighbor offered it and he just didn't want to say no, kind of thing. Our kids are watching us all the time, and our actions will determine what they do. So and just, why would I sabotage my health? I got to the point where I would say to people, I couldn't eat sugar. I mean, it was just it would make my brain super depressed, and it just wasn't worth it. And alcohol also, I just had to not drink any alcohol because it really threw me into a really dark place. And I would tell, some of my family members, and they'd say, oh, what's a little sugar going to hurt, And I just finally said, I have to live in this body the next week. You don't, so it's really, me deciding that I'm, making executive decisions that I'm going to restore my health. I'm going to feel good, and not letting other people, influence that. So, it's not disrespectful to say, no, thank you, I can't eat that. I have a food sensitivity. So that's a big deal too, is us as adults and parents, taking that decisive action in front of other people, and our kids looking on, because they do pick it up. And even if they rebel against it, when they're younger, they will pick up on that standard, or that executive energy, or empowerment that we took, and they will remember that.
Statistics is like 98% or something like that, right? That your kids will do what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And really, they can only do what we do. Our kids can only be who we are, because living under programming for 17 or 18 years, they can only be what their environment is. So we have a big job, a big task, a big, responsibility to be the example again, and the invitation for them.
I think that's the meaning behind when we often say that our kids help us grow just as much as we help them, and it's in these areas and these realizations that they do. Because I think I admitted that in some of our discussions, where I eat much healthier now, knowing that I'm a role model, than I would have done just for me.
But in the work that we do, as far as helping people transform, we want them to do it for themselves. We want them to have that love, that self-love, and recognize the magnificence of our body. Because if we have something that's as valuable as our health, like I said, that's carrying us for 100+ years, we should be taking meticulous care of it if we want it to serve us and be brilliant and energetic, and carry us through all the seasons of life and the things we want to do. Of course, we would want to love ourselves and love that incredible creation that we are, to a very high degree also, even if we don't have kids. Right?
True, very well said.
Yeah, so the tip for Live Healthy is make executive decisions on what you put in your body. You're the author of your health status.
Yeah. Practice saying no more often if it doesn't serve you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us into the soul, or live free realm, where we want to kind of bring all of this together. So I'll let you start there, Roberta. I think you have a good line to start this off. About
I was just saying that writing the script of our movie is non-negotiable if we really want true freedom. And so, kind of going back to the empowering mindset, I think of, for me, the greatest, freedom in my life was when I chose a specific path. Like I decided that I didn't like the way life was working. I'm not living like this anymore. I'm going to make another decision. So I hired a life coach, and just within a few sessions, she got me focused on a path, and that path showed up within a couple months. And I it was, I could either take that path or I could just shrink back and say, oh, I couldn't do that, or what will people think, or what if I can't, what if people think I can't do this, because who am I? I had all these very timid, I guess, responses to life. And so looking at that and knowing in my soul that that was what I needed to do, and then stepping into it, making that committed step towards that direction of travel was a huge part of freedom, because living our truth, I think, is, for me, is the only way to really have true freedom within myself and feel that, I guess, that passion for life. If I'm walking around trying to please other people constantly and living someone else's life, I will never feel fulfilled.
That makes a lot of sense, and how brave of you to go out and kind of ask for help. I know that when I first started my growth journey, I realized that, I didn't know what I wanted. I had no idea. I'd never thought about what my dream life would look like. I just sort of was always flowing the path that I thought I should, that I was supposed to, get a career, have a family, make money, get a good job. And I never really thought about, what do I want this life to look like for myself? So that has been hugely empowering over the last few years as I started following that and, writing it down and thinking about it. So this soul realm really combines our other two parts in this as well. And you know what? The mindset of living your own journey and being in your own movie, being the star. Like, this is really about you. It's your life. It's about you. And remembering everyone else's extras. They are not as important as the star. So I think Peter says, don't let the extras in your movie depict your script, or something like that. He says at the very end of that clip. So make sure you're not doing that. Decide on what's right for you and what's good for your body, what your decisions are about your health, and what goes in, and what habits serve your greatest self.
Yeah, I think the ultimate freedom, like I said, is, and I guess we'll just share that with our tip too for this, is to determine our authentic path, that clear direction of travel. And it doesn't take, it used to be like I didn't have a clue, so I just avoided that idea, even that concept, or that. And my life coach had me sit down and start writing down, what would I do if money was no object? What have I always loved to do? What makes me happy? Is it people? Is it animals? And just really, just having fun with it, just writing it out and getting a direction of travel, and then making a decisive decision. I'm going to follow my truth, because again, our kids are watching us also. And if I don't live my truth and my purpose, I kind of leave them in a modeled state of not knowing how to grab a hold of life either. Like I'm training them to be very ambivalent and just, kind of, well, whatever happens. I'll just do whatever life throws at me, and without making that clear path or that clear decision. Like Tish said, we're responsible really for the script of our movie, and we get that privilege of writing it and deciding how our story is going to end. And are we going to write a movie that, like Peter says, that people would pay to watch, that lived full out completely and didn't shrink back and didn't waste time and didn't, a life that we're proud of at the end of the day.
I think it's important to note, especially since this is about G.O.O.P here, in that, both of us have in our own growth as we reach for more from ourselves, and to try to live more authentically and freely into our own selves and into these dream lives that we're starting to, or that we've been dreaming up, and that we're trying to live powerfully, and using that as our compass. That, we understand that there are other people that are going to, doubt on this. Some of those extras in your movie are going to be like, what, you can't do that, or what are you doing? That's silly. That doesn't make any sense, because of whatever, programming they have in their lives. And, that is something that we're all going to have to fight for ourselves, to really be true to our own growth and to our own movies and our own truth. In order to really live free, is to stand by what makes the most sense to us, regardless of what anyone says around us.
Yeah, and so that kind of leads me to our quote here too. And it says, most people don't care enough about you to bother to have an opinion, because they are too busy being worried about what they think you are thinking of them. So when we think about, like I said, all the money, all the time, I should say, and energy we waste, and a lot of times money too, right? When we're trying to people please and buy people's approval. It's just incredible. It's almost like a very huge distraction from the real meaning and the real purpose of life. It's like a trick, to pull us off course, and being free of that. I can say for myself is I have so much more mental bandwidth that I can work with and function with. I actually have peace and ease when I don't care about what people think, at a level of knowing who I am so strongly that nobody can tell me any different, that there's just it's non-negotiable. I know who I am. I know what path I'm going on. I know what makes me happy and what I enjoy. And I know what I want to do, with my life. And really, I'm not veering off of that path. That's my movie. And so it's exciting to have that focus, because I always tell people I could die happy because I feel like I have, embodied my truth and I'm on that path. So there's no regrets.
So I'm saying, yeah, striving for, what that looks like, being able to dream. I can just like feel my face light up even as I talk about it. It's so glorious to even just think about living that true, authentic self. That's really what freedom is about and what we want for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So our invitation too is just, to invite you to reach out, and we have free consultations. We can either do them together, Tish and I with you, or you can schedule with each of us separately and have a conversation around the path that we have took in this journey to be healed in mind, body, and soul. So there's a very clear, and I think about that a lot, a very clear and simple option for moving forward to making that committed step forward and really changing that life so you can have a life you're proud of. So many people think it's complicated, or they could never do it, or it's just not for them. And we just hesitate and talk ourselves in circles, when just making that committed step and taking action on your direction and allowing someone to support you and guide you will truly, makes all the difference in the world.
Well said. Okay. Well, I think that concludes it for today then. We hope to see you on the next discussion. Thanks very much for spending your time with us today. No swimming in goop.
Yeah.